Hey, I was putting together my little edit analysis for Phobia's montage, and I kind of thought about. I had some things that kind of came to mind while I was making it, and I decided I was just gonna make a little video, kind of talking about the thought process a little bit behind making montages and editing and all that that I go through usually. So first, just look at this little thing I have here. Over here on the left, this is the death order. This is the amount of clips used for each person, and then their placement. And then I also did it over here again, but this is now ordered in amount of clips used, and it kind of compares a little bit it gives a kind of a look at the amount of clips I use for each person and how much I balanced the edit, both in comparison to from player to player as well as like players on the same team. And there's a couple like little interesting things. We'll start at the bottom here. Of course, the Shut Up Brick and HL Llama are at the bottom because Brick had no footage and Llama had only one episode of footage. Uh, Fun little detail about that is I have three clips when I actually used two of only her footage. But later on, there's a scene where she got Iron Man, and I used Bacon's footage and just put her nameplate over it and got her reaction. The scene, I believe, is, yeah, right here.
Yeah, let's go.
So that's actually Bacon's footage, which is kind of funny. But whenever a player has footage but doesn't have full footage or is like specifically if they're missing fights, I really try to use their footage, whatever footage they have of them, early on, just to make sure that like I'm using all the available perspectives, even if they didn't really have much unique to show, which is the case for Llama. I only had two clips of her, but they're both kind of used in like little like passing, could be anybody's footage moments. I like to have these little passing time moments in montages, like the sort of game progressing type of scenes where players are doing the kind of the usual stuff like digging down or mining and other sort of things like that. These give a chance to show players and teams who maybe aren't doing anything super unique or worthwhile highlighting, but just still wanting to see them and make sure that people know that they are still alive and that these teams are around. And I like to also try to use these moments to give players who I know aren't going to be super highlighted later on and to kind of give them more moments in the montage. So, like an example of this would be Jared on the Aqua team, who, in comparison to Gus and Jamie, doesn't really have anything super unique happen to him individually. Gus has a moment where he runs into Green team in the cave, and then Jamie goes to get the supply, not the supply drop, the whatever it is, the rescue retrieval, and runs into Green team as well. So those are both moments that both of them have separate from like the team fights that they get. But Jared doesn't have something like that, so I often would highlight him in these kind of passing moments. You can kind of see people here at the bottom do sort of follow the death order a bit, which is not terribly surprising. It's funny, Michael dies a lot earlier than Sional, but Sional has less footage, and I mean, part of that is because I'm not really big on showing caving footage unless something specific happens, like getting a significant item from a spawner or mine shaft or something like that, or if someone in particular does well, like in the Phobia montage here, I have a little montage of Liz mining a lot of diamonds because I felt that was pretty significant how much she was finding and how that affected her team's ability to do well, both early on and later in the game. But otherwise, if like a player has mostly just a caving game and doesn't have a lot of other stuff, then they don't really get a lot of clips. So that's true for Sional in this season, and it's also true for NT Bama. But he has a lot more clips because he lasts longer and has a couple of fights. This season in particular had pretty much every team that made it to meetup had something significant happen to them before meetup. The team that had the least amount of that was the Aqua team. They didn't really have anything during meetup to really show, or before meetup to really show, other than like a very small encounter with the purple team. Something that I'd really try to do is balance the edit between members of a team. Obviously, it's kind of hard to make the edit balance between different teams. Like I'm not gonna have a team that died first, like the dark gray team, have as much to show of them as like the team that wins. But in fights and such, I try to jump between members on a team and not favor a specific perspective over the others. But there are little kinks in that do happen. Specifically, if a player is more aggro or has just like a lot more shots that work well to show what's happening. A good example here is for yellow team BBR. Even though he died, you can see he dies a lot earlier than his two teammates. He has the most clips still of his team, and that's because during their earlier fights, he is the one who is really pushing a lot more and noticing other players. I also try to, if there's like a significant thing being said, I always try to have the person saying it be the one that we're seeing the perspective of. I don't always do this, especially if I'm really trying to balance it a bit more. But like, I don't really have a good example for someone who does this a lot more than others in this season, but that is a factor that does give a certain player more clips than others on their team. And that kind of segues into how much audio is important to me for montages. I really try to get clips of people saying things important to what's happening. Things like if someone is going to go to the surface, I want to establish why they're going to the surface. That's just kind of like an example. There's a lot of things that happen there. Or like, someone's starting to flank. I try to get the clip of them saying I'm going to flank or something like that. But that also kind of fits in with the music I use. I have a lot of fun editing to music and trying to have the perspective changes be in time with the changes in the music. And so sometimes that leaves very limited spots or limited time to get in a sentence someone's saying in a clip that I need. So I often, especially in this montage, do a lot of shifting around audio and like moving the audio to times that don't actually pair up with what it is in the video. A good example is going to this fight between pink and red team here. So whenever it's just Haven Hand left, the music is going da 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 da, and I'm trying to shift every single between every single phrase of that part of the music, and I'm also trying to squeeze in the establishing words that people are saying. So like,
Kill a wolf. Okay, let's just loot this stuff. Oh my god. Okay, let's get these items.
I managed to get at least one. Whoa!
so you can kind of see what I'm talking about there, where like with Brick there, I'm trying to get the little clips of him saying, "Okay, let's go get the stuff," so that we know that they're backing out, and I'm trying to squeeze that in between the limits I have there. Uh, so that is a thing I do a lot of my montages are that can make it a little bit more difficult, but also it's a little more satisfying to me. So another thing with audio is music's really important to me, which is probably pretty obvious because I often have my music be really loud and up front in comparison to other montages. And I think this montage in particular had quite a bit of there's a lot more attempts for cohesion in the music, which helps because the round has a theme that's really easy to pick music out for, which was kind of spooky music was what I was going for. I also kind of went for some cohesion in like early on at the very beginning of the montage. I use this song from Made in
Radiophobia is the fear
Abyss
of.
that sounds like this.
Hello, welcome to Radiophobia.
This is Phobia season 23. We're doing.
Which it kind of sounds a bit like one of those horror themes, like Halloween. And then I use that's a remix of that same song later on, around the point that um, around here.
Do you have the obby?
I just took
Oh.
damage.
I took damage. No.
Yeah, we need cures. We need so many cures like that.
Do you have more gunpowder?
Yeah, coming down with 2 more.
Alright, sick.
And I kind of felt that worked really well with the rounds theme, which was radiation, and this second iteration of it sounds like it's kind of like detuning and fading and getting all distorted, which I thought worked really well, and I was really happy with that music choice there. Another one that I really was excited to do was I use this theme from Celeste, which has a chord pattern. Let me try to find it.
Timber time.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to go to retreat.
Here.
Oh, my chunks are 16.
I see flues.
So the theme, which it goes like da 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 da, which I noticed was the same chord progression as the theme for 28 Days Later, which is a zombie movie, and zombies aren't exactly radiation, but they're a little bit. So I kind of felt that fit pretty well, and so I wanted to use that song as well as later on in the final song I used is the theme from 28 Days Later, which is here.
Later.
Oh,
Nice shot.
Let me go.
Watch Brody. Don't know where he is.
I hit him.
Nice.
But yeah, so it's almost kind of like using some light motifs, which is it's just a little bit of fun. And I also think both songs worked really well for their area. It was kind of like a foreshadowing of the final song. And then the last little kind of like music Easter egg I did was the fight between my team and Purple that happened earlier on has a theme from Sekiro.
Yep.
I'm on there currently.
Which
I see the beat.
run this run.
I'm gonna go to the risky retrieval and get 15 diamonds.
Okay. Baby zombie.
Oh, run!
And I then when our team fights again much later, I use a different theme from Sekiro. They don't really have too much connecting in leitmotifs, but there was a specific part that goes like da 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 da, kind of like that. Not my best singing there. That was in both of them, and I kind of liked the idea of having
0.5.
these.
4.2.
Just pegging me, bro.
Oh, he's gone.
Let's see. There it is.
Healing. 5.5. 4.8. 4.5.
And I realize that specific spot happens when they're fighting Antibama and not our team, but it's it's the same songs still playing when they ever fight us, so it works. But another thing I like to do is I really, especially this montage, I was trying to do was to keep the battles contained in the song that's paired with them, and trying to use the music efficiently, which often kind of limited how long I could have a fight go on. Or sometimes I had to extend how long a fight happened so I could end with the music. A good example is the fight between Pink and Red, where I'm using the Ludwig theme from Bloodborne, where I kind of had to fit this whole fight within this song.
Is that 1.4?
And specifically here at the end, I'm really stretching out this fight between these two to make sure that it ends at the same time that the music ends, which I think also does work well because this is a tense fight, and having it kind of slow down here for the last little bit of this fight works pretty well. But also, I'm using the same song much earlier in the fight, and I'm making sure that I have to
I
like
thought you were somebody else. I was
speed
about
up
to freak
through
out.
specific moments that the fight might slow down, so that I can fit the whole fight within the parameters of the song. And I do this quite a bit. I don't always have a fight end when a song ends. Sometimes it just doesn't line up too well, and I don't do so much planning that I completely make that work. This does work pretty well to make sure that I don't have a fight go on too long, because I'm a pretty detailed montager. I really try to get the full story of a fight in, and sometimes if a fight is specifically long, that can be a bit of a too much. So trying to contain a fight in a certain song makes it so that I have to find places to cut the fight down a little bit and make sure it doesn't go on too long, but also it's like I have this allotted time for the fight to fit in. So another one that applied to pretty well was this fight between blue team and yellow team, where we had a song from Made in Abyss going.
Alright, let's go up for BBR.
Where did I get shot?
And there are bits I had
Oh, no,
to
the
sort
third
of
one.
shorten down so that
just,
the
like,
whole
surrounded,
fight
I
could
shot
fit
him,
within
5.9.
this song. An example of that would be
So we ran out
close
of
to
shooting.
here about. So coming up here, I do a bit of like a little edit talking where like there's no talking in it and they're shooting and it goes to the music, and it just kind of abbreviates a small exchange of arrows that doesn't really have much actually happen, like no one gets hit or anything, so that it can just kind of cut right to the part where the battle moves, like right here.
Last fight.
I think we should just run towards the chest.
So yeah. Something else I'm pretty specific about is having music that fits what's going on in screen and has a bit of an ebb and flow, so that it's not always just like action music, but sometimes it slows down a bit and we have moments that are less action packed and more story building. Usually these sorts of music appears earlier on. There's the song that is more slow here at the beginning that is kind of creepy, and it's played during the introduction of the game mode and the players. Then the second song is more relaxed and sort of kind of establishes a bit of a somber theme, which kind of fits Phobia pretty well. So you have like the kind of slow build.
Oh.
No.
Oh my god.
Ooh, invisible spider.
I remember running through the subways.
So it's a bit like it has kind of slower parts and more loud, but still not super exciting. As in like not like something that'll get you like heart pumping kind of music, so that it can have these more like low stakes, but still like, I mean, people getting attacked by mobs and stuff, so it's still like some stakes are in this song, and the moments moments it has in the montage. The third song is one that has like battles can happen with it, and basically there's only battles that happen during the song, but well, not only battles. There's like it's the song that's kind of transitioning from this starting point to the more battle heavy part of the montage, and so it's a bit slow still, but has more of a pace to it. So
Stuff. It's right over this way.
it's more relaxed, but then you have like these kind of big hits here that can fit with a fight, like
They're unenchanted.
Is it
straight out the fight here.
Michael is here.
Yeah.
And then the fourth song is just full battle music.
Oh, run! Oh. I cannot hit him.
I see the beacon.
And only battles happen during this pretty much, so it fits pretty well for that part. And wanted to follow it up because there's not a meetup yet, so I wanted to follow that with a more slow, kind of creepy song that plays for this portion that isn't very battle heavy
Sick.
and is more establishing, like showing the game mode working
Yep.
here,
Drink.
and also a scene of Simply Sam and how he ends up dying here eventually. And it sort of picks up and is a bit more creepy sounding. And the next song is kind of both has slow bits and fast bits, so it works to ease us again into another battle. So we have the first half of the song has more like establishing what are people doing kind of bits, but then it can kind of transition into a fight, and then the second half of the song is very battle music-y. And then that's the last fight at meetup. So I always like to have like the meetup kind of who's alive, what are they doing, how are they getting to meetup, where are they at now that meetup is hit, sort of song. And it's usually more relaxed, but also has some kind of dramatic or drama to it a little bit.
They're all high health, and I do not want.
So yeah, that's that song. And then we follow that with like, spooky battle music, And it's pretty much battle music all the way, rest of the way through meetup. But I do like to have little like small moments of build up within this battle music so that it isn't always just full on. It's mostly full on, but you have some more slow moments as well. Like, that happens at the beginning of this song that follows this, where you have the kind of the introduction here that's more relaxed.
I got hit.
Well, I wouldn't call it relaxed necessarily,
hit
but
twice.
it's more relaxed than what it had been. And then following this song,
To the right, to the right, to the right.
which does get very dramatic later on, there is another dramatic, big, wow, that's crazy sort of song here. And this is a fun moment here after that where I chose to get the old piano out and make the music myself here right before the last song, because I kind of had the fun idea of using the intro music, which is As the World Cave In, which I did not include the actual full intro, which is might work better if I did include a full intro in the montage, but sometimes hindsight 2020, right? But still, I thought it'd be cool to play that in the key of the final song and have it transition into the final song. Kind of shitty recording of the piano as well, which kind of does bit work for the how it fits into the theme of the round and all that. But here we have the ending where I'm playing the first note, and there it goes, it transitions into the song. And then the final song, I knew this was gonna be the final song like before I started the montage because it just fits so well, and it's very dramatic.
There's no reason
It has a slow build up.
Brody right behind me. Nice shot.
But
Hit him. 0.7. He hit me.
I do pull out the piano again here, and I don't like this use of the piano as much as the first one. But I just chose to do it because the actual like ending part of the song I used was it didn't feel like it fit well enough to me. So that's why I just chose to do it as what I wanted to use for myself. Just make it myself, I guess. But yeah, that's enough about music. And then back to this. There's the one more factor that that would cause someone's edit to be a little bit larger than some other people is if you have a teammate that doesn't have any footage, or if you just live longer than your teammates. I guess what I'm trying to get at, like a good example here is Brodator versus Cold and Wibble. And even though they win, these two are behind Haven Hand and Brodator because they both win together. So there's two perspectives to show to use for their team's perspective, so that I can cut between them and share the screen time. So they're sharing screen time between each other, while from Brodator or Haven Hand's perspective, there's only them. So I can only show things from their perspective, so they get a lot more clips. And that's why Haven Hand is by far, not by far, I guess he's 5 more clips than Brodator, but Brodator and Haven Hand have a crap ton, especially Haven Hand. For if you look at the discrepancy, he has a top amount of clips despite dying in like or placing 14th, and that's just due to he has 2 separate 3v1s. I split the clips like when he fights Dark Red, I split the clips between these 3 evenly, or as evenly as I can, and then whenever it's switching back to him, it's just him. He's my only option. But yeah, so that's just kind of a little bit of a look at the editing process and like things I think about while doing montages.